Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lorelei Shamayo. This is the MeWe Metaphysics and Wellness events for empowering body, mind, heart, and soul. We have events throughout the Northwest and online. We interview our practitioners and vendors so you get a chance to know who we are before you meet us at an event. I'm here today interviewing Jennilee Porch. It's great to have you, Jennilee.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So tell me a bit about what you offer. What do you do?
Yeah. So again, I'm Jennilee Porch, and I am an Access Consciousness Bars facilitator. I'm also a coach. And so with both things, I love to play with being in the question. So Access Consciousness Bars is a modality that involves gentle touch on 32 points of the head. And it essentially is a way to help kind of delete the things that aren't working for us, like the places where we store all of our thoughts and limiting beliefs around things. So not the things that are working for you, but the things that aren't. Providing more space so that we can actually have ease in our life in a lot of different areas. I know that hundreds of thousands of people have used the bars across the world to help ease everything from anxiety and depression to body issues to relationship things, our sex life, lots of things really. Because as you know, at the core of all things is energy. And so it is basically being able to tap into that space and bringing that possibility to ourselves and all the different layers and ways where we've kind of trapped in some of that limitation and solidity, where space can really help us to ease and move and change things in our life. So, yeah.
Great. I'm so glad you explained a bit of it. I have more questions. So
Sure.
I think I've heard about teaching the bars or running the bars. And so how much of it is teaching and how much of it is you're doing it in a session, and how much does the person participate in saying different things?
That's a great question. So I'm a bars facilitator, so I can teach the course where someone can come and learn, and they can be a bars practitioner themselves, which means they can incorporate that into maybe a healing business they have already, and they could do bars sessions. And I love that you said the phrase running the bars, which is essentially the sort of offhand way of just saying that's a bars session, right? Receiving a bars session. And when you're receiving a bar session, so in the class, of course, you're learning all the things and you're getting to practice, and you're both receiving and practicing it twice during it's 6 to 8 hours. It's a whole day certification course. And but during a session, it's just you receiving, and that's and one of the targets of bars, and one of the things that the bars helps us do is to learn how to receive, right? To receive and more, expand our receiving, and especially allowing our body to receive and have that sense of learning how to receive more too. And so in a bar session, sometimes folks just relax and they don't really say anything, right? They're just receiving. Sometimes they fall asleep, which is another beautiful way to get the mind out of the way and just allow the bars to run. Or sometimes we talk a lot, and that's beautiful too. And as you can tell, maybe you could tell, I love talking. So one of the things we can do is as we're touching the different points, we correlate with different aspects of our life. There might be something that comes up to mind, and then we can kind of process through that too, verbally, which can be an added layer as well. So yeah, so both it.
and then how does the person, well, actually another question before I ask that first. So you said there are 32 points. Is part of it checking the 32 points and then doing work with the ones that have something to change?
Sure. So when I'm touching the different points, I'll be asking it to run, and they might run at different lengths, some of them might kind of run for longer periods. And so that's a sense where as a practitioner, what I'm doing is following the energy of what's happening, right? And so then if a bar, one of them associated with some part of your life, doesn't need as much of that change and that invitation for space, then of course we can move to another one, because another one probably does. so yeah, definitely following the energy is a big part of that.
And it sounds there's something about you getting it started and then it keeps going, it keeps running until it's done.
Yeah. So I would hold the point until until like I sense that like it's kind of done for now, you know. And after you've had a session, your body kind of knows how to run the bars. And so you can later on like ask the bar to run, you know, and then you can do that too. Like it's really like our bodies require touch. It's such a healing aspect. And you can like once you have had that where your body's been touched and like been able to receive the contribution that the bars are, you can also like later ask the bar to run, you know, like if you're noticing that maybe you want some more space around something. Yeah, so that's kind of cool too. And in the class, when I teach the course and you kind of learn the whole process, it's a great way to learn how you can run it on yourself too. So after you've learned them, like sometimes I'll be home and I'll just like want my bars run. Maybe nobody's there to do it. So I'm like, okay, I'll just do it myself. That's really cool too.
Wow. And how long does a session typically take? I'm sure it's going to be different for each person with what they need.
Yeah. I do both 60-minute and 90-minute sessions. I think like, especially if it's your first time or you're kind of new to the process, I would say 90 is really like kind of like a full session, you know, giving the space for the bars to run as long as they'd like to. But both of them work really well. And even when, so for example, in July, I'm going to be facilitating these free events called Being You and Access Bars Experience. So you can come and learn some of the other access tools, which aren't necessarily the physical process, but like the question tools that I really love, and experience and learn more about the bars. And so in that sense, like you might get a little, depending on how many people are there that day, as I'm running it for the first 3 Wednesdays of July, is you might get a little taster of it. And so even like, you know, 5, 10, 15 minutes with your bars being ran still invites that space to begin to be received in your life and your body.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Now, I think you live in the Northwest, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you might come to some of our in-person fairs, and I was just thinking, can you do smaller sessions and do like partial things like that? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So
that I'm sure is what I'd offer when I come to one of the in-person events. I am on the east side of Seattle, and then my office is in Kirkland, where I'll be doing some of those sort of like free intro events in July. So yeah, I'm excited to do more with MeWe. I love this offering that you have, and the fact that you do it like all the way down into Oregon and
yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Can you share just a little bit of how did you get started doing coaching and bars and like all those different kinds of things?
Yeah, totally. So I had studied theology for a long time. I actually have a master's of divinity. And it was during that study where when I deconstructed my religious beliefs, so at least like my structure around what spirituality was for me at the time. And it was like quite the experience. That's a whole story unto itself. But during that time when like everything was changing for me and having to see the world in a whole new way, you know, I was almost forced into being in the question, right? Because like, what else could I do other than continually ask, like, all right, okay, so if this isn't going to work for me, and that's where I had like my life planned out. that was like all of my education, it's where I was going to go with my career. Now what do I do? And it was really following the energy even then, even maybe before I even knew that I could call it that I came to the modality of coaching. And what I loved about it and still do is that it's a modality that really honors each person as each of you as infinite beings, you know, like that I'm not here to give someone an answer like at all. That would be such a disservice in my perspective, my point of view, to be like trying to tell someone what they should be doing. But what I do is hold that space, which can be very, very playful too sometimes, even with, you know, heavy topics, around like, hey, what else is possible here? Like, what questions can we be, empowering questions can we be asking? And what ways can we look at this that would shift and expand our perspective on it? And that I was like just talking with a friend of mine, and we recorded this conversation about her story of how she was moved from seeing a situation from like either or, and it was like this big thing, right? Like either have the wedding that I really desire or the house that, you know, like things that could really be, you know, beautiful things in our life. And that moving into a space of question, she was able to move out of the either or kind of polarity way of looking at things and into possibility, which brought both things, you know, and more into her experience. And so that kind of thing is what I love to do with coaching. And then from that, like later on, I found the tools of access, which is all about being in the question and different, like really pragmatic and pragmatic and practical tools that facilitate a lot of more space, you know, around things. And so now I'm incorporating doing those things and continuing to expand my journey too, for sure.
That's great. That's great. Well, if people want to learn more about you and reach out, how do they find you on the web?
Yeah, so you can find me at thedynamicway.co. So that's for like coaching and access stuff. And then it's, you know, The Dynamic Way on Facebook and Instagram. And I think those were the things. Yeah.
Great, great. Did you want to leave an email or a phone number or anything like that too? It's up to you.
Oh yeah, so it's just my first and last name. So Jennilee Porch at Gmail if they wanted to reach out with an email. So yeah, that's a great way to reach me. JennileePorch at Gmail.
Okay, great, great, sweet. All right, well, it's been lovely connecting with you. I'm looking forward to having you at more events.
Thank you so much.
You can learn about all of our different events happening at MeWeFairs.com, MEWEFAIRS.com. See you soon.